Welcome back. Lost in the news this week was that Governor Ron DeSantis signed the state's $115 billion budget, but not before whacking about $600 million in line item vetoes. Now, I did a quick review of all the cuts, and some of them are just sad. He cut funding for half a dozen meal programs for seniors, like the Little Havana Activities and Nutritional Center and the North Miami Foundation for Senior Citizens. He cut transition housing for homeless veterans. He cut more than $600,000 to provide safe housing for victims of human trafficking. He cut tens of millions in environmental projects, including funding to monitor Biscayne Bay, improvements to the Sweetwater drainage system, and to provide clean drinking water to Opelika. He cut millions and millions of dollars from law enforcement as well, including funding to improve the forensic crime lab in Broward and a police training facility on Miami Beach. He even vetoed funds to reimburse the Doral Police Department for overtime due to President Trump's visits to his country club. Now, I asked State Senator Berman about these cuts. She's the Democratic leader in the Florida Senate. But we began by discussing the notion you heard in the last segment, that Alligator Alcatraz could withstand a hurricane of Category 2 proportions.
I did read also that they said that it is up to a Category 2 and that if it was higher than a 2, they would evacuate. It does seem crazy to me that those facilities, which are actually the same facilities that are used after a hurricane, the trailers that are brought in when people's homes have been destroyed, could withstand a hurricane. And I really think that that is questionable. And if there is a hurricane heading in that area and it is only a Category 1 and they leave the people there, I think that it could be disastrous. I find the whole makeshift prison in the Everglades to be so horrific and distasteful that the state is doing this. These are human beings. I watched the pictures yesterday of the cages, and I saw the legislators who were there all smiling and taking pictures, and I feel like we've lost our humanity. I mean, these are, we've heard that President Trump was only going to round up criminals, but we've seen what's actually happening. He's going to construction sites. He's taking people at immigration court. We heard he's heading to Home Depot. So these are our friends, our neighbors, the people who are picking our crops, the people who are building our buildings, the people who are working in our hospitality industry. And I find the whole alliterative political stunt to be horrifying right now.
The governor recently signed the budget into law, but as part of it, he vetoed some $600 million worth of programs, including programs that benefit children, programs to help people, who are victims of human trafficking, programs for law enforcement. What was your reaction to the vetoes, the $600 million in vetoes that the governor instituted?
I'm very disappointed that the governor vetoed all these projects. There were 13 pages of member projects that were vetoed. And you have to understand that they totaled $600 million out of a budget that was over $115 billion. And that includes $15 billion in reserves. So these $600 million that were vetoed were a tiny portion of the budget, but so important for the cities and the counties and the social services agencies that put in for these requests. And they really, in these tough economic times where all people are struggling here in the state of Florida to be able to afford to stay in their houses. I just read that people are taking out loans to be able to buy food, to feed their families. And in these times, those kinds of social service projects, those kinds of city projects, I think that they are more important than ever. And there was really no reason to veto all these items in the budget.
When you look at this budget overall, do you think this does much to sort of help on the issue of affordability here in Florida? There have been a lot of talk early on about reducing the sales tax. There was some talk about eliminating sales tax for certain items under $75. There was even talk from the governor of offering a $1,000 rebate to folks with homestead exemptions. None of that ended up passing. Does this budget help Floridians with the affordability crisis they're facing?
I think we have a lot of missed opportunities in this budget. I mean, we know one of the biggest crises in the state is property and auto insurance. We didn't do one thing in this budget to address property and auto insurance prices. We know there's a problem with housing affordability. There was one piece of legislation passed, but it's a piece, the Live Local Act, which was passed several years ago, which we've tried to modify and make it better, but I'm not even sure it's really having any impact. Like I said, people can't afford to buy their food at this point in the state of Florida. So I don't think we've done enough. We put in several sales tax holidays, but we've always had those sales tax holidays. It's nothing new. We've always had back to school. We've had some new recreation sales tax holidays. So I'm disappointed that we didn't do more to help everyday Floridians in our budget.